My tone sucks. I can't get my guitar to sound like in the videos that I see online or in my favorite records. Do I need to buy thousands and thousands of dollars of gear in order to get a professional sound out of my guitar? Those are some of the most frequently asked questions I get from students on Patreon or comments or DMs. So I think it's about time I make a video talking about this. I usually never do. And in order to give you something super hands-on, I have my own personal quad Cortex unit right here, and I will show you how I construct my sounds. You do not need a quad Cortex in order to get the same tones. Everything I'm showing to you right now can be done with plugins, with traditional amps, pedals, anything you prefer. It's just all about how you shape a certain sound and what you actually want from that sound. To start things off, I will give you a quick demo of the main sounds I have with my personal unit. I have the classic distorted rhythm guitar tone. That's no big surprise. I used it for all the more kind of traditional classic metal guitar riffs that I have in my songs. The next one is called Clean Boost. That's one of my clean tones that's not super clean. So it has a bit of spank to it, so to say. And I mostly use that for rhythm parts actually. Especially with the BER10, so with my signature Ibanez. If you're in this position, so if you count from here, 1, 2, 3, number 4, and then you also activate the voicing switch, you get that kind of single coil-like sound. And that's a tone that I really like for the more funky stuff. Then I have a similar clean tone that's pitched down. I will show you that later. The other main tone I have is, of course, a distorted lead guitar sound that I mostly either use with the bridge or neck pickup. The neck pickup is a bit warmer. As you can hear, there are some more effects on this one. It's not as dry as the rhythm tone. You got some delay and a little bit of reverb. And the last main sound that I use a lot, it's called soft math on my quad Cortex. It's a math rock kind of tone, but it's a little bit softer compared to the other one I have on there, and I use this one a lot. You will recognize this one. I know I play this riff all the time, but so whenever I do stuff like this, the more modern kind of tappy stuff or anything with harmonics or tapping harmonics, this is the sound that I would use for that. And I would say those are my main sounds, and I want to show you how I actually construct them. And once again, you don't need this exact unit, so a quad Cortex, to do that. You can do that with pedals, with plugins, with absolutely anything. It's just all about the signal chain really. And for the distorted rhythm tone, it's as simply as it gets. The only thing, I mean, of course, you have a simple gate at the start, because when I'm playing live and I'm doing something like, I really want silence and I don't want that kind of sound. So there's just a simple gate in here. You will have to experiment with the threshold just to see what fits your personal guitar. I have a little bit of compression going on right here. I don't think you can hear that a lot with that kind of rhythm tone. I will give you a direct comparison. So this is it with compression. If I turn it off. So not a huge difference. You will hear the difference much more in detail when we go to the clean tones. My friends, due to so many requests, I finally put together a Bernth Tone package for my awesome Patreon community. This one includes all the presets you can see in this video for the quad Cortex, my Neural DSP plugin presets that you can hear in all of the YouTube videos, the shorts I post on Instagram, and also my Kemper profiles that I use live on stage. This package is included completely for free for all Patreon members, and you can get it by signing up today. Just click the link down below. As a bonus, you will also get my full home home recording courses all about mixing, recording, mastering at home so that your guitar tone and your recordings at home finally sound professional without spending thousands of dollars on plugins. So if you would like to sound just like me in these videos, just click the link down below, patreon.com/Bernth. Download the new preset pack, dig into the home recording, mixing and mastering courses right away, and have fun shredding. Let's get back to the video. I have an overdrive before the amp, so this is kind of a classic tube screamer situation where you would have the tube screamer before you hit the amp. Once again, with the tube screamer. Gonna turn it off. So this is the first thing that does make a difference, I would say. I don't really want to overdo it. I kind of like the tone of this one, so you can see the tone set to 10. So it's not so much the overdrive that I'm going for, but I really like what it does when it comes to the tone. Often when I use a tube screamer, it's almost completely in a neutral position. But for this one, I went all the way. It's a fun kind of sound. Then I have an amp right here. This is the Freeman 10 lead amp. And as you can see, the gain isn't set to 11 or 12 or something, not to 10. It's actually set to 3.4. In that case, those are active pickups, so they do have some nice output for that metal stuff. But I feel like a lot of rock and metal players kind of make the mistake of going for something like this, because more is more, I guess. But as you can hear, it's a little bit over the top and you don't even hear any bass or drums. So that will be like positioned on top when you play live. And what I don't like about using too much gain is that you don't really hear those picking strokes that clearly anymore. It kind of starts to merge together. And once we dial that back a little bit to 3.4 like we had it, although it's still a lot of gain with the tube screamer in front of it, you can clearly still hear those percussive individual strokes in there, which is cool. And at the end, I just played around with the cab and mic positions a little bit, but not too much, because once I had that tube screamer amp situation going, I was already like, okay, I really like this tone. So this is the most simple one that I have. Then for the clean boost, this one's also quite simple. You have a gate once again. You have compression right here set to a little bit of a higher level, 3.9. And I think you will hear what that does a little bit better when I play a riff like that, for example. That has something like a quick hammer-on section. And I do that without the compression. You can still hear the individual notes in there, but especially with that kind of clean tone, it's really cool to hear those percussive elements a little bit more. It still sounds cool, but I want people to understand that compression isn't just kind of a shortcut or trick to even out the notes that you're playing to get the same amount of attack. Of course, the classic Instagram cliche by now would be doing this, setting the compression to 10. So all the notes that I played right now were dynamically very different. I started out with relatively heavy picking strokes, and then I moved to lower and lower picking attack. But when you just listen to the signal of the guitar, like the amp that we're recording, the Quad Cortex, it will sound pretty much the same. So this is not really what I want, to make every single note that I play sound exactly the same, but a little bit of compression, around 3 or 4, yeah, 3.9 actually, that just really helps with whenever I'm playing percussive stuff to make that really nicely audible and balanced. And for this one, we just have the amp right here, so no kind of tube screamer in front of that or any other pedal. It's the Brit 203 that I'm working with here. Once again, a low gain setting. And what I personally don't like that much, you will see that with all of the sounds that I'm using, is working with too much treble or presence, so a lot of high end, because I think that gets annoying real quick when you listen to that. I do want it to sound quote unquote like spanky, like what I showed you a little bit earlier, but I don't want it to sound like this, for example. So this is a bit too much if I really go all in on treble and presence. that's not really pleasant to listen to anymore. So this is something I pay attention to with all of my sounds. Once again, I feel like that's a mistake a lot of players make when they only listen to the guitar by itself. When you really turn up those higher frequencies, it sounds like you're getting more definition out of the instrument, but for the listener it can get a little bit annoying. So we're not gonna save that, we're gonna move to the next one. So for the distorted lead tone, there's a bit more happening right here. Once again, the gate of course, and we do have compression here as well, set a little bit higher, because when I do something like my modular picking kind of thing, I really like it when those notes kind of merge together in a more extreme way, dynamically. So when I'm playing with a high gain tone, I am going a little bit more for that compressed feeling, because you won't really, at least with this sound, I won't really play a solo that's very much about super subtle dynamics. It's a high gain lead guitar tone. So a bit more compression on this one. And after that, same scenario, I move into the Tube Screamer, where I really like the tone on this one. And it's this amp again as well, but this time the gain is cranked up quite a lot more. And this is something that can be a little bit dangerous, and you have to be careful with it, because as I mentioned before, I don't want the lower notes and picking strokes to blend together. But since I'm mostly playing in the higher register with a lead tone, I feel like I can use a little bit more gain on that kind of tone. And the notes still kind of sound nicely separated like this. You will once again see that treble and presence are moved down a little bit. So especially with a distorted lead tone, I play a lot of solos in my own shows. They're basically almost all solos. I don't want people to stand there like this after like half an hour. I once again hit a guitar cap, and I don't think I played around with the amp positions too much right here. And the key difference, of course, from the dry rhythm tone is that we have some delay and reverb. I personally really like delay and reverb, so you have like a 30% mix right here, actually with both delay and reverb. When I'm playing by myself or recording at home, I might dial that down a little bit, or it just depends on the song or scenario. But live, I really like that. I feel like it makes it less direct and more enjoyable. And then when we move to, I guess, the most interesting kind of tone I use, the math rock kind of tone, this is the one I get the most amount of questions about, I think, because I often post videos where I'm using a kind of more modern tone that's not really just high gain. And there's something going on right here that's kind of special. Maybe you heard it a little bit already when I played. You can hear that with the tapping harmonics, especially when I'm doing something like the... just tapping the same shape 1 octave higher right on the steel frets. If you have very trained ears, you might have already spotted what's going on here. And it's pretty much the first thing. I don't even have a gate on this one because I don't run into issues with that tone. You have an octaver effect right here. So I'm playing around with the pitch. It's a little bit subtle, but I think you can spot it, especially with single notes like this. And what that does is it makes it, once again, a little bit more enjoyable to listen to for me. To have that lower octave in there, and it gives it, I guess, that kind of more modern math rock kind of sound. And what's cool about this unit that I'm using is that you can even use that with chord voicings, because I remember very early kind of pitch pedals basically exploded once you played a more complicated chord voicing like this. But it's really, really cool that this actually works, once again, for a riff like this in dopamine. Still very enjoyable to listen to, and it's more of a subtle effect, I would say. It's not that crazy. Then once again, compressor is set a little bit higher on this one because it is all about math rock. So but you can still hear the difference in notes that I played, hopefully right here, like with the lower picking attack and then moving into more picking attack. So when you're trying out your compressor settings, this is something that you can do. Just start it with the kind of most subtle notes that you're playing in your songs or solos, and see if there's a difference to the notes that you're playing with more picking attack. Very simple way of kind of figuring out, am I using too little or too much compression? Then I'm hitting the Bernth 900 clean amp, and there's a little bit more gain right here because we're not using any kind of tube screamer pedal or anything in front of that, and I don't want a classic clean tone. I do want that kind of crunchy sound with that tone. But for different scenarios, we could experiment with making it a little bit more clean. I just like it when you hear that bite a little bit. I think that's really, really cool. For this one, I do have some additional EQ in there because there were a couple of frequencies that I did not like that much. This is something that's a little bit hard to figure out because when you're playing by yourself and you're recording with headphones, it might sound awesome, but then you step on stage for the first time with your new sounds and your sound engineer might tell you there's way too much happening at like 250 Hertz, for example, which is not exactly a common frequency to boost with guitar sounds. So I took that out a little bit. Once again, we're going into a cab right here. And we do have some delay and reverb. And the thing with delay that I really like to use, this is one more tip that I think is very useful. I don't really like my delays to exactly kind of bounce on what I'm playing. I like to go for ping pong delays. And that's pretty cool. As you can see, I'm plugged into the stereo out, so left and right. So it's not just a mono signal. Whenever there's enough space on the soundboard, which is thankfully pretty much 99% of the time, I like to have my guitar in stereo because you can really hear that kind of ping pong effect. So if you're listening with headphones especially, you should hopefully hear that delay bouncing back and forth. And that way I often get away with using quite a lot of delay because it's like not just mushed into the middle and it's always bouncing on what I'm playing. There's more of a stereo effect to it, which is kind of cool. And I also like to sync it. For this tone, it says quarter notes, but I just chose like any kind of note value that usually works when I'm doing a demo like this. That sounds pretty cool to me, but when I would be playing to a song, I mostly have it like to dotted eighth notes or dotted quarter notes. So I don't just avoid the delay falling on my own playing all the time by balancing it left and right. I also kind of place it in between beats, because if you have a dotted delay, it doesn't fall like with quarter notes on every single click of the metronome. It falls in between those accents. And those are some tricks of getting away with using a lot of delay, because I really like it. I like the sound of it without it kind of making your playing too muddy. And then to wrap it up, some more sounds you might have seen. This one is pretty special to me because it's actually quite mind-blowing. I used to bring a lot of different guitars and different tunings on my tours because the pitch shifters weren't really there yet, especially with full chords and so on. But lately they've been getting so good that I don't do that anymore. I have a song called Farewell, which is actually the most streamed song that I have on Spotify, so naturally I have to play this one live. And this one is in D standard, but I only bring this guitar in E standard and just use the pitch shifter. So actually I'm in this tuning. This is kind of a same or very similar sound, but for this track I switch to this one and magically I'm tuned to D instead of E, and it's super impressive because when I play like a full chord voicing, that still sounds pretty great. Back in the day you could only do that for single notes, but it's really gotten quite advanced. So even with complex chord voicings, sounds pretty great. And the other tone I have right here, this is something I use to play like Waterworks and the more ballady kind of stuff. I really like that tone as well because it has just a little bit of modulation on there, which can be cool for the modern clean stuff as well. But as you can see, the layout is pretty much always the same. I like to work with compression and figure out how much do I actually need for that kind of tone that I'm going for. Mostly I hit an amp directly. Sometimes you have a modulation effect like right here, or a tube screamer before that. Then I have the cab, and then I might add some delay and reverb at the end. So to sum this video up for you, my most important tips. Number one, figure out what compression actually does. Test it with your playing. Do you need it? Do you maybe not need it if you're like super into ambient stuff and you want the tiniest dynamics to be very different from the very strong picking attack? So don't just turn on compression, actually play around with it and see how much you actually need. For distorted sounds, you don't only have to work with the gain of your amp. Maybe try a tube screamer or overdrive-like pedal before the amp. And for the delay, what I really like to use, stereo delay, and also maybe on the dotted quarter or eighth notes. That's really as simple as it gets. Also don't overdo it with the gain. As you could see, even with my more extreme kind of metal rhythm tone, the gain is at like 3 or 4 or something like that. All right, my friend, it's time to click the link in the description, patreon.com/Bernth, because over there you can download my new tone preset pack and you get access to all of my premium home recording courses as well. This will teach you all you need to know about mixing, recording, mastering, all at home without spending a ton of money on expensive plugins. So if you like the sounds you could see and hear in this video, just click the link down below, download the new pack,